So back in 1965, when Carroll Shelby convinced Ford to let him take some plain Jane white fastbacks and build street-legal race cars out of them, the GT350 legend was born. And a few years later, its bigger brother showed up in the form of the GT500. Now, while the 67 GT500 was not quite as raw as those original 350s, it more than made up for it with its big block power plant. Now, 2015, Ford once again brought a GT350 to the scene, and just like the previous 350s, it outperformed the Mustang GT in every way. And as history sometimes does, it repeated itself in 2020 with the introduction of the bigger, faster GT500. Now in 2020, that happened to be the only year you could purchase either a GT350 or a GT500 from your neighborhood dealer, again assuming you could find one and make a good deal on the car. Now, a lot of people have asked over the years which one is better. If you follow the groups, there's a lot of owners who sold their 350s and jumped on a GT500. Some ended up going back to the 350, and there's lucky ones that we all love to hate who have both cars in their garage. So which one is the better car? Well, obviously that's going to be very subjective based on what you're going to use your car for, but today we're going to take a closer look at the two best production S550 Mustangs ever made, the GT350 and the GT500. Let's start with the GT350. Now, your GT350 was available from 2015 through 2020 and available in either GT350 standard or R configuration. Under the hood, the 5.2-liter Voodoo engine. Now, the Voodoo engine featured a flat plane crank, making it a very, very exotic engine for Ford, and it had an 8,250 RPM redline, making it the highest revving Ford engine ever produced. That was worth 526 horsepower and 429 pound-feet of torque, which is also the first Ford engine to make over 100 horsepower per liter, making it very efficient. That power is sent through a Tremec 3160 transmission and then through a Torsen differential and 373 gears. These cars also featured Magna-Ride suspension, huge 15.5-inch front brakes with 6-piston Brembos, and equally huge 15-inch rear brakes with 4-piston Brembos. The wheels, 19 by 10.5 in the front and 19 by 11 in the rear, with 295s in the front and 305s in the rear. On the inside, you have your choice between the standard comfort seats or optional Recaros. I may be biased, but when it comes to the body, I think the GT350 is the best looking S550 Mustang that Ford ever built. Now, the 350 keeps the styling of the 500, but it's unique all the way for the Shelby. First of all, from the fenders forward is all unique. The fenders, the hood, the front bumper are all specific to the GT350, as is the carbon radiator support. Out back, you have a custom rear valance with a quad-tip exhaust, and then everything else is going to be very similar to your normal S550 Mustang. Now, the aero and the whole package on the 350 was built to work on the racetrack, and the 350 does a great job of doing just that. And then you have the GT500. Now, Ford teased this for a while with the GT500, but when it showed up in 2020, boy, did they deliver. And the 500s are available from 2020, and they're still currently available in 2022. Now, under the hood of the 500 is the 5.2-liter Predator engine. Same block, same displacement as the 350, but it uses a standard cross-plane crank to better work with the 2.7-liter supercharger on top. What is that up to? 760 horsepower, making it not only the most powerful Mustang ever built, it's the most efficient supercharged production engine ever made. Now, on top of that, you have the game-changer transmission, the Tremec DCT. The DCT is going to shift faster than any manual or any automatic before it, which is really a game changer for this. Plus, that transmission allows the 500 to stay in its power band and make it an absolute rocket right from the factory. All right, so we have all that power. Now, how about stopping? Well, the 350 brakes look huge until you park it next to a GT500. You're talking 16.5-inch rotors and huge 6-piston Brembos up front. Now, it wasn't long ago that Mustangs had 16-inch wheels, and now we're seeing 16-inch brakes. And again, like the 350, you've got your Magna-Ride suspension, upgraded aero, basically everything the 350 does, the 500 is designed to do, just with a lot more power and a lot more efficient transmission. So we talked about what comes on the 350 and what comes on the 500. Now let's talk about how they perform against each other, and we're going to talk about numbers on paper, because obviously on the road they're going to operate differently. But let's discuss the actual performance numbers that people have gotten out of both the 350 and the 500. So the two things people often compare with cars are going to be 0 to 60 and quarter miles. So let's start with the GT350. In most cases, you're going to be around a 4-second 0 to 60 for the GT350, while the GT500 only needs 3.3 seconds. Let's talk about quarter mile times here. The 350s are typically going to be low 12s. 12.2 to 12.3 at about 117 is typical. There have been a few cars that have snuck into the high 11s with the use of drag radials. The GT500, completely different animal. On a no-prep surface, they're going to run bottom 11s, 11.1, 11.2, and there's been tons of GT500s that have gone in the 10s bone stock, some running as quick as mid-10s on a very, very well-prepped track. 60 to 0, kind of the same way. The 350 is going to stop a little bit quicker in around 95 feet versus 100 feet for the 2020 GT500. Now, performance numbers are great and all, but the best thing about a Shelby is actually driving it. You know, that's what they're built for. So let's take both these cars for a test drive. Now, if you're used to Mustangs, the console area is going to look quite strange in a GT500, mostly because there's no shifter. You just have this knob, gives you manual mode in the middle, which will switch you to the paddle shifters, but basically just park, reverse, neutral, and drive. Like we would do in a 350. First thing you do though, hit the exhaust button, make it a little bit louder. We'll put it in track mode. Let's take it for a ride. Now, first thing I'm going to mention is we are doing this video on Groundhog Day. So it's February in Pennsylvania, so not really ideal road temperatures or air temperatures to drive a 760 horsepower car. So we're not going to do anything crazy, but we're just going to take it out, have a little bit of fun with it. The first thing you notice when you drive the GT500 is the transmission. I mean, the shifts are just butter. At low speeds, you barely even feel that it's there. Unlike the 10-speed, which will shift, you know, sometimes will kind of skip gears, the Tremec's going to go through all the gears when you drive it. And when you put it in manual, you choose your gear and it's going to stay in it. You know, even with the factory exhaust, you get a nice tone. The car is extremely solid, extremely planted. You get a lot of familiar stuff. You know, you got your oil temp and oil pressure on the dash, the same as the Shelby. You know, our 500 is going to have the digital dash where we have the analog one in the Shelby. Steering wheel, very familiar. Again, it's a very familiar place, except for this lack of shifter. I'm always looking for a clutch when I drive this car. It is in there, but if you want to go fast, it doesn't need it. I mean, the DCT is an absolute game changer. And also downshifts through all the gears as you come to a stop. But the GT500 could easily be a daily driver. I mean, you can take these cars out, it's comfortable, I mean, it's got heated and cooled seats, it has every option you could possibly want, and along with 760 horsepower. I mean, it's, like I said, it's like 30 degrees out, we really can't have too much fun with it, but I mean, you get in this thing and, yeah, I just spun the tires at 70 miles an hour. It is, the power of these things is unbelievable, and that transmission just works. I mean, you give it gas and it is immediately, I mean, it drops down to the right gear immediately and it just pulls like a freight train. Now when you're to stop, I mean, the brakes, plus the trans works with it. So you have this car on a track, a road course, you're having some fun with it, you really get on it to go, but when you got to stop, the transmission's helping you there too. When I hit the brakes, and you can hear like the pops of the transmission downshifting too. I mean, they just work. It's amazing. I mean, the way the transmission works with the engine, and it's just poetry. I mean, it's unbelievable. And from any RPM, I mean, we're at 1800, even in this, you can give it a little bit of power. I mean, it drops 3 gears immediately and puts you in the power band. This car wants to go. And you drive one, it's no surprise these things run 10s pretty easily. I mean, you put a drag radial on GT500, and you don't run 10s, you're either racing in Colorado or you're doing something very, very wrong, because it's literally almost that easy with this car. But I mean, the car is tight too. The steering is, I mean, it is really, really responsive. It's not a case of this is just a fast straight line car. I mean, Ford built this car to be near supercar level, and it really is. I mean, for a base price, now if you can find one for base price, but you're talking 80 grand-ish to get one of these, and it's a car, you know, the brakes and performance and stuff you have at that entry-level price per GT500 standards, I mean, it is an unbelievable vehicle. I mean, the power, what this thing's capable of doing, I mean, your speedo reads to 220, and I know they're not geared for that, but the power is there for sure to go that fast. And we'll take it on one of our favorite curvy roads here. Just love the way that transmission downshifts too. It's just really freaking cool when you drive it. But I think it's amazing with these cars is it's so easy to drive. Anybody who can drive an automatic, if you can drive a car, you can drive a GT500 without a problem. Just get in, put it in drive, and go. Now, if you want to click it in manual mode, you know, now you've got the paddles, and again, you control the gear. You downshift, even if it thinks you're in the wrong gear, it's going to let you freaking do it. And for corners, it's freaking great. So you get down that lower gear, and you just get that nice little pop from the exhaust every time you shift it. It is pretty cool. Slow down, Bill. It's kind of cold out here. But yeah, I mean, the car, it's tight in corners, it's solid, the brakes are unbelievable. I mean, these are, you're talking basically a supercar. Ford really hit it out of the park with this car. But even here, it's like, yeah, I can come into a corner, get on the brakes, manual do it. But again, I can switch it, get rid of manual mode, put it in drive, and when I get on the brakes, it'll still downshift for you coming into corners. And a lot of people have talked about the comparison between the 10-speed. I mean, the 10-speed is great for a straight line. I mean, it absolutely is. They're very fast to the track. It's not this transmission. The DCT is at a whole nother level as far as car control and how it integrates with the engine and performance and upshifts and downshifts and the manual control. I mean, it really is completely different. I mean, like I said, when you're in that manual mode, it's going to leave it wherever you want. So I can upshift to the highest gear right now, which I really shouldn't be in at the speed I'm in, and then I can downshift as far as I want to too. And the shifts are, it's 0.01 seconds. So you're not going to shift faster than that. I mean, it is just, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I know I've said that a million times probably in this video, but the first time you drive one of these, you'll get it. Like I said, we're doing this on probably about the worst day we could possibly choose to do a comparison like this. But we'll do something in the spring too. We actually do plan on getting out to the track with the GT500 and the GT350. Hopefully some actual road course time and drag strip as well. So we will definitely have some more head-to-head content coming for these cars. For now, we're just doing a quick comparison, talk about what they are, what they do, why you would want one, and we'll definitely give you guys some more information in the future to really help you make your decision which one is right for you. Now, of course, as any 350 owner knows, as soon as you fire it up, the first thing you're going to do, turn up those exhaust valves so you can really hear that 5.2. So why would anybody want a 350 instead of a 500? Well, the main reason is going to be that right there. Now, there's a lot of people who still want to shift their own gears. I'm one of them. I actually find the car a lot more fun to drive with a stick shift transmission. Is it as fast as the DCT? No chance at all. The DCT is way, way faster. The 500 is way faster. You got to think with the 352, the cost of entry is going to be a little bit less. I mean, you're talking a base price difference of around $20,000 or so. But let's take it for a ride. One of the things that I loved about the 350 is the exhaust tone. Now this car, stock exhaust, it's got a Ford Performance, a really resonator delete on it. Actually, I checked that, I'm sorry, it's a Corsa. But yeah, it just, the sound of that 5.2, the flat plane crank just hits different, it sounds different, it has that exotic sound. It's just way different than what the other Mustangs on the road sound like. To get to Shelby, if a 350, you fire it up, you know, you hear that engine, you look down, you see the 200-mile-an-hour speedometer and the tach with a red line past 8,000 RPMs, and you know this isn't a normal Mustang. I don't want to talk, I just want to listen to the engine. And like the 500, you can adjust your steering, you can adjust the suspension, you have all kinds of different modes on it. Yeah, and in my opinion, what the 350 gives up in horsepower and speed to the 500, it makes up for in the kind of the soul. I mean, this car on a curvy road with the sound of that exhaust and how well the car's planted and balanced, it just is an amazing vehicle. And if you ever have the opportunity to drive both of them, highly suggest doing so, because you can tell they're kind of bred the same way, but they're different in how they do things. You know, the 350 by no means is a raw vehicle, but it has a rawer feel about it. It just, you know, it feels more street legal race car-ish. The 500 is just an absolute rocket. Like I said, it does everything well. Handles well, accelerates well, brakes well, amazing car. And if you want to put it in manual mode, you got the paddles, keeps you busy, but when you're talking about getting out and really driving, to me, the stick shift is a game changer. You know, I actually know of a company who is currently in the process of swapping a GT500 with a T56 Magnum, which should be a pretty crazy car when it's done. But yeah, to me, I love the stick shift. Nope, it's not as fast, never gonna be as fast. No one's gonna shift like a DCT can shift. But there's just a raw feeling of, you know, having a sports car like this with a manual transmission that just makes the driver kind of more involved. Well, like I mentioned before too, the GT500, you know, anybody who can drive a car can hop in a GT500 and go down the road. You know, if you can drive a stick shift, yeah, you can drive a 350, but there's less and less people that can drive a stick shift, which is pretty sad. And to really, you know, wind one of these cars out and really put it to use, you know, you're gonna have to be pretty talented with the heel toe and shifting and everything to be able to really, really enjoy it. But it rewards you when you do. So after all that, which one is the better car? But like I said at the beginning, that's entirely subjective. It depends what you want to use the car for. For me, I want to be able to have a stick shift car. For my fun car, when I go out and have some fun and drive some corners, whatever, I like a stick shift. And the DCT and the 500 is amazing. The power is intoxicating. It is an all-around faster car for sure, except for maybe a tighter road course. But to me, the 350 is just more fun to drive. Now, I know a lot of you guys have both cars here. A lot of you guys have driven both of them. And let us know in the comments below, what is your favorite S550 Mustang?